So yeah, basically the question is there an appropriate action to take or a different action or a different type of action that needs to be taken versus when one is not comfortable and when is comfortable. Is that about right?
Yeah, that's way better worded than what I did. Yeah.
Um, so yes and no.
All right.
uh, on the mind lately has been the topic of generosity.
Hmm.
And what I've heard is that one can be a nibbana simply through the practice of generosity.
Interesting.
And when I hear this, there's a lot of wisdom there. So
Hmm.
we can look at actions and we can sort of see that sometimes an action is generous and sometimes it's not.
Yes.
You know,
Hmm.
especially when we're talking about interacting with other people. So if somebody, let's say we want to give something to somebody, and they say, no, no, I don't want that, you know. Uh,
Yeah.
but then we say, no, please take this. That second time we offer it, are we being generous or not? It depends upon the
Yeah, I wouldn't think
person.
so. Oh, yeah.
If the person is really stubborn, but secretly they want what you're offering them, then it
Mm.
is generous to offer a second time. Are you sure? Are you sure you don't want some dessert? But if we
Hmm.
know they're trying to watch their weight, and we know that they have diabetes, but we go ahead and
Hmm.
say, are you sure you don't want some dessert? Perhaps that isn't as considerate the second time.
Yeah.
You know, this is
Hmm.
just a harmless example.
Hmm.
We don't have to be perfect in our practicing of generosity.
Right.
And we can look at this when practicing with ourselves on the inside. So we can ask ourselves, what's a way to breathe that would be really generous right now for the body and for the mind, and
Hmm.
also for those around us?
Yeah. Hmm.
So again, just another harmless example. We don't have to breathe in a way that's really loud and distracting and that disturbs others.
Hmm.
But we can practice breathing in a way that really fills those lungs up with that life
Right.
energy.
Hmm.
And I mean, the thing about breath, the thing about air, the thing with breathing is that it's so abundant. It's so abundant that we may as well call it and endless pool of life energy, keeping us alive.
Mm.
So we can look at what's a generous amount to give ourselves right now.
Mm.
But then we can also be generous in this way. What's a generous way to treat the diaphragm and the muscles surrounding the lungs, and the stomach? Is it generous to strain really hard and work those muscles until they're sore and expand the lungs until we just can't expand them anymore? Is that generous for the body? Generous. Another word we could use is kind. So you can see in this way that the encouragement is to act generously, to act kindly. So in a way, the mechanism in the mind is the same. It's like, oh, just doing something generous, just being kind.
Mm.
So
Right.
sort of the starting point, the forerunner, the you know, where the one that knows is seated is basically saying, just be kind, just be generous, just be friendly.
Right. Just be friendly to yourself in this moment.
Yeah, that's the quote unquote only action that needs to be taken. But we can see how that can manifest or turn into or manufacture into all sorts of potentialities, possibilities.
Right. Mm. That makes sense.
So yeah, we can use the word friendly, kind. What's a way to breathe that would be really friendly right now? Oh, we're already comfortable. So what's a way to be friendly, kind, and generous when we're already comfortable? Well, the way to do that is just take it easy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. To continue.
Don't need to be so vigilant of the breath now. It's like, okay, things are all right. Things really are okay. The body's recognizing that things are safe and that it can be at ease.
Mm.
We don't have to keep offering it more and more dessert once it's really happy and full of joy and full of peace. The generous thing to do then is to offer a bit of silence and let the body enjoy the dessert it's already having in the breath and in the wholesome thoughts. So we'll cover a story about generosity too.
Okay.
In the Bible, there's the synoptic gospels: Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John.
Hmm.
There are two miracles that are in all four gospels. The rest of the miracles are either only in one gospel, only in two gospels, or only in three. The first miracle that everybody knows that's in all four gospels is the resurrection of Jesus.
Hmm.
And then the second miracle is the feeding of the 5,000. People often remember it as there being fish and bread involved.
Right.
So there's a bit of pointing to that if any of these miracles happened, one of the most likely would have been the feeding of the 5,000.
Right.
So there's 5,000 people following Jesus around. listening to what he has to say. And I don't remember the story exactly, but they gather up a few fish and a few bread. And the disciples say, Jesus, this is all we have to offer to these hungry people.
Mm.
What do we do? And so Jesus says, get 12 baskets and split these few pieces of bread, these few pieces of fish among the 12 baskets. And then pass the baskets around. And the common way to tell the story is that the baskets magically filled up with food. And then everybody got full through the power of God.
Yeah.
But what may have been much more likely to happen is that among the 5,000 people, you see, this happened right around the time or right at Passover, where many of people in the crowd would have already had unleavened bread, which is like flat bread, just, a bit in their pocket or in their bag or what have you.
Right.
And perhaps a few dry fish as well, just little snacks, the same way we might have a snack snuck into a side pocket somewhere that we got from 7-Eleven.
Right.
So when these 5,000 people are hearing these teachings of Jesus about being kind and generous and friendly to people, and they see these baskets of food being passed around with hardly any food in them, they've got generosity on the mind.
Mm.
And there's this encouragement of, oh, maybe this little food I've got snuck away, I can add to the basket too.
Mm.
And then all the beings got fed. Everybody there was full and satisfied through sharing.
Mm.
And this was the real magic, the real miracle of generosity.
Right.
Is when we're generous within ourselves, it inspires generosity all around.
Right.
Both among what we may call the different minds of the mind, but also, with our friends, whoever else.
Right. Yeah, that's an interesting thing that generosity kind of spreads. When you are generous and you are friendly, it kind of gives permission to other people to be the same way.
Mm-hmm.
But it does take that
Or
first step.
instead of permission, we could say it invites people. It's an invitation. Because people, when they see there's generosity, they want to be generous too. They see, oh yeah, I remember generosity feels great. It feels nice to, especially the giving of food. The giving of food to people who we see as friends or who we see as family. That is such a time-honored tradition that I'd even go as far as to say it's something that's practically baked into our DNA, is this feeling of it feels good to give food to our friends and family and to share food and to break bread and to eat with one another and to know that, oh yes, my friend is getting fed and so am I, and everything really is okay. But guess what? There is enough food to go around.
Yes.
There's plenty. An endless ocean of food, in fact.
Yes.
The same way there...
miracle.
Yeah. In the same way, there is enough breath to go around.
Yeah. That's interesting. It kind of reminds me of the concept of taking happiness in other people's happiness, where there isn't any sort of set limit to how much happiness there is to go around, and there's no reason to ever be in any way jealous or upset of other people when you could also just take joy in their joy. There's more than enough happiness to go around too.
Yeah, there's boundless happiness. So
That
and this
sorry,
same,
go ahead.
yeah, you're okay. In the same way, we don't have to be jealous or envious. But we don't have to hide away the happiness that we have into our little side pocket.
Right.
We don't have to be afraid to spread that happiness, that joy, that generosity, that friendliness, that kindness. We don't have to be afraid to spread it around.
That reminds me of a Thich Nhat Hanh quote where he says, "The real miracle is not to walk on water, but it's to walk on earth." And I think he says with kindness, or like with
Oh,
joy,
that's
or
so
with
nice.
peace or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And it's really profound.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So
There's
just kind of being
there's
able to
real
carry
magic
that.
already.
Yeah.
Wow, we're able to share smiles with one another.
That is magic. You can really change somebody's whole day just by smiling at them sometimes.
Exactly. In fact, a lot of I'm not a historian or anything like that, but I know in history, a lot of magic is also associated with like things like incantations and chantings, and or something's kind of similar to mantras. What they might call spells.
Yeah.
And yeah, a magical spell is things like happy to see you.
Yeah.
Glad things are okay. I mean, that's a spell that's really disarming.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or even just good morning.
Yeah. Seems like spells and magic sometimes are really just ways to set an intention, or even like an invitation to feel some sort of way or behave in some way. And that's really where the magic is. It's just this like, yeah, I'm doing this big ritual to achieve something, but like what I'm really doing is I'm really imprinting in my own mind how important this thing is, or how I want to be this way or act this way.
Right, exactly.
Interesting. So I guess that the answer to, comfortable or uncomfortable, how to respond is, of course, making sure that it's friendly in response or generous in response, which I guess can be, making room for whatever is at hand, but also, I guess, like you said, that there's many different variables or factors. So I guess that comes down to kind of wisdom, or what do you think?
Well, I'll say this. I really liked what you said, making room for what's there at hand. That's a really good way to put it, as we can basically make a whole bunch of nothing. Give whatever that is in the mind room to breathe. I mean that both figuratively and physically.
Right. Yeah. True.
A lot of
So,
a lot of
sorry, go
sort of
ahead.
discomforts in the body really can be comforted by just breathing more comfortably.
Yeah.
But then the thing with whatever is going on in the mind, whether it's feelings or thoughts or mind objects, we can listen or pay attention to or see whatever that is as if it's the only thing in this big room.
Right.
And it's such a big room that it's boundless, a boundless heaven. We don't have to we don't have to be impatient with whatever it is that comes up.
Right.
We can be generous with our time with it. We can really be nurturing. If we see that it's taking the mind towards dukkha, we can be generous in the way that we put a genuine effort and have a genuine enthusiasm for getting out of that dukkha right now. That's the real generous thing to do. That when there's any sort of dissatisfaction, any sort of stress, any sort of upsetness with the way things are, say, yeah, let's be generous right now. Let's really be friendly. And whatever it is, if we have, let's say, we have a job that we have to do, or there's somewhere we have to go, or some meeting that has to be had, being so generous with those moments of dukkha in the mind that we say, you know what, forget about all of that. There's no need to do any of that unhappily.
Right.
Because doing it unhappily is not generous to this body, to this mind, and guess what? It's not generous to the other bodies and the other minds that we get involved with.
Right.
Most people would rather meet you when you are happy and 10 minutes late rather than upset and hurried and on time and full of dissatisfaction and unwholesome thoughts.
Right, true.
And guess what? The person who's 5 minutes late because they spent the time getting happy and comfortable is much more likely to have a smooth meeting that may even end early because everybody's like, you know what? Everything's all right. There's no work left to do.
Yeah. True.
It's a lot easier for us to remind that to our coworkers and whoever else.
Yeah. That's true. Yeah. So I guess that there's a time to work on. There's inevitable pain, or there's inevitable unpleasant experiences in life. So I guess the question is how do we build the discernment to see when we should have a willingness to, have an experience and when we should instead work on changing the experience so that that first arrow doesn't even happen?
Well, we can practice, there's a few different ways to answer your question because, these are all just different perspectives, right? But we can practice not having the experience anymore.
Right.
That's
Well,
kind of
yeah.
the real generous thing to do. It's like, we're so generous, we don't even take that as ours, whatever it is. So even if someone does give you food and you eat it and you poop it out, you don't see any of that as being yours. Because it's not. You didn't make the food. You didn't make the body that ate the food. And you really didn't have hardly anything to do with making the poop.
Yeah.
Only God could do that. That's sort of a joke.
Right.
So, one thing I remember hearing not too long ago from Ajahn Sumedho was he was reflecting on how his body has just become a, what did he call it? Sort of a dana body, a body that's just completely the product of other people giving to it.
Wow.
Both, with food, with clothing, with things like soap and razors and toothpaste, and people paying for whatever his body needs, basically.
Mm.
And there becomes a reflection there that when we live a life where we allow people to give this body things, we allow people to be generous. That makes it a whole lot easier to say that what I'm doing or what I'm thinking or what's going on really isn't mine. And there becomes almost this inspiration of recognition that, wow, being kind really is worth it, not just for this body and just for this mind, but for the other beings too.
Mm.
And it's so easy to recognize that other people deserve, having generosity. I don't know
Right.
about using the word deserve there. Could maybe use something else. But basically, it's worthwhile to give everyone generosity.
Mm. Mm.
And this is, Mikey Buddhadasa talks about living of the fruit of the void, where it's like there's this fruit that comes about basically from generosity, and we couldn't really say where it's coming from.
Mm.
Just like the fruit in those baskets, the bread and fish that were passed around in those baskets, it all got mixed up, it all got passed around, and we've got no idea really where it came from. If it came from Jesus splitting it, or the disciples, or somebody having some 7-Eleven snack hidden away in their bag.
Mm.
And so, when people talk about metta or, sending out love to all beings, it becomes a lot easier to be generous to all of the beings we encounter in our day-to-day life when we recognize that we're living in an environment that is generous to us.
Mm.
The coworker that you don't like, again, this is just an example, the coworker that you don't like may have been generous to the person that baked you a birthday cake.
Right.
And that person that baked you a birthday cake for your birthday, they did it because they were filled up with generosity by the coworker that you don't like. They were inspired in that way. But we don't know how it happens. Generosity is such this, it's really moving around, going all over the place. But we can practice basically living with it, living off of it, living in harmony with generosity and friendliness and kindness. And really start paying attention to when others are being generous to us, and give generosity back right away by saying, "Thank you so much. This is much appreciated," whatever it is. Even if they're just giving us a good morning. We don't have to say, "Oh, thank you for saying good morning to me." But imagine if people did that.
That'd be very interesting.
And then we could have a dialogue back and forth of, "Oh, thank you so much for saying thank you for saying good morning to me." Oh, that's...
Yeah.
Then we could really get the generosity ball rolling.
It's kind of like when you start having wholesome thoughts about having wholesome thoughts. You just keep on doing it.
Yeah.
You congratulate yourself for congratulating yourself for congratulating yourself.
Exactly.
That's funny.
You got it. So congratulations for being alive and having an opportunity to practice.
Thank you. Yes, thank you very much. You too.
No, thank you. Yeah. Glad to be here. This is great.
Yes. There we go. All right. Well, I have to eat some food because I haven't eaten today, but I appreciate this call very much.
Yeah, be generous with yourself. Go give yourself a meal and enjoy it.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. I'll make sure to do that. And
okay.
Whatever you got planned, do it generously as well.
Oh, thank you. Yes, I'm gonna give myself a whole bunch of nothing to do.
Nice. All right. Well, thank you very much, Mikey. You take care.
Let's talk again soon, my friend. We'll see you soon.
Yes.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.